Deep in the jagged Ozark ridges, where mist clings to limestone bluffs and oak forests stretch across the horizon, one question still lingers like unfinished business. What really happened to the Confederate gold that disappeared in the spring of 1865? In the final chaotic collapse of the Confederacy, as Richmond burned and leaders fled south, wagon trains were reported to be carrying millions in gold and silver into uncertain territory. Official records from that period are incomplete and fragmented. Eyewitness accounts contradict each other. Some reports describe guarded convoys heading toward Georgia, while others suggest secret diversion routes westward into the wilderness, away from Union patrols. Yet among all the theories, the Ozarks remain the most persistent mystery. In this episode of Western Tales Official, we trace the paper trail left behind in fading ink and brittle parchment. Alleged 1865 maps, said to be drawn by Confederate officers, have surfaced over the years, each showing hand-drawn ridges, rivers, and strange symbols that do not match standard military cartography of the era. Official military maps of the time were structured, systematic, and based on clear topographic conventions. In contrast, these Ozark maps appear rushed and inconsistent. Ink pressure changes from stroke to stroke. Margins are uneven. Compass roses sometimes tilt slightly off-center. These irregularities suggest haste, secrecy, or both. Historical records confirm that Confederate President Jefferson Davis fled Richmond with portions of the treasury. Some of that wealth was captured later. Some was officially accounted for, but not all of it. Historians still debate the difference between what was documented and what may have disappeared. In that gap between record and rumor, legend began to grow. Local Ozark folklore tells stories of nighttime burials, coded carvings in stone, and riders who vanished without explanation. Families passed down tales of iron-bound chests lowered into sinkholes. In the late 19th century, prospectors claimed to have discovered unusual markings etched into rock faces, symbols that did not resemble surveyor marks or pioneer carvings. Were these the desperate actions of a collapsing government hiding funds for a possible future return? Or were they stories layered over time by communities shaped by hardship and hope? The physical maps themselves raise more questions. Some surviving examples claim to date from 1865 contain ink consistent with iron gall ink commonly used in that period. Others fail forensic testing. Paper fiber analysis sometimes matches 19th century rag pulp manufacturing methods, but authentication remains inconsistent. Instead of settling the debate, each discovery seems to deepen it. The more closely we examine these maps, the clearer one truth becomes. Whether genuine or fabricated, they have taken on a life beyond their origin. They are no longer just historical documents. They have become catalysts for obsession. And that obsession begins with symbols. If the gold truly existed and was intentionally hidden, it would not have been marked clearly. Some researchers claim that recurring symbols on these maps are linked to the Knights of the Golden Circle, a secretive pre-war organization that supported Southern expansion. While historians debate how active this group remained after 1865, treasure lore credits them with creating coded markings to identify hidden caches in remote wilderness areas. These symbols include triangles carved inside circles, backward letters, uneven crosses, and geometric patterns pointing toward natural landmarks. Individually, they could mean nothing. Together, they appear deliberate. However, interpreting them becomes more difficult as time passes. Geological features from the 19th century do not remain unchanged. Riverbanks shift. Floods erode limestone bluffs. Trees once used as reference points decay and fall. Rock faces crack through cycles of freezing and thawing. A cipher based on environmental landmarks becomes less reliable with each passing decade. A direction like 3 paces north of Split Oak becomes meaningless if the oak tree no longer exists. A spring flowing from a limestone ledge may disappear due to geological change. Some maps even include what researchers call deterrent symbols, such as skull shapes, inverted crosses, or warnings written in old-fashioned language. Were these meant to scare off unauthorized seekers, or were they later additions to make the story more dramatic? Understanding the psychology of the cipher is just as important as understanding the land. A cryptic map invites interpretation, and interpretation encourages projection. The human mind searches for patterns, even when none exist. Confirmation bias narrows perception. Every unusual rock formation becomes potential evidence. Every coincidence strengthens belief. In documented cases across the Ozarks, modern treasure hunters have spent years attempting to decode these symbols. They create overlays, compare satellite imagery, and map triangulation points between carved stones and distant ridgelines. Some believe the cipher aligns with astronomical events, requiring specific solstice positions to reveal its true direction. Yet the more complex the interpretation becomes, the harder it is to disprove. Historically, a functional cipher would have needed simplicity. Confederate officers fleeing in chaos would not have created an endless puzzle. They would have required clarity, retrievability, and secrecy balanced together. This tension between practical concealment and modern interpretation lies at the center of the mystery. The hunt persists because, over time, the map itself becomes more valuable than the gold. Throughout the Ozark region, stories circulate about individuals who dedicated decades of their lives to searching for Confederate treasure. Some spent their savings. Some strained family relationships. Others withdrew quietly from community life to focus on surveying ridges and attempting excavations. The psychological pattern is consistent. Curiosity begins with historical interest. Interest becomes research. Research becomes fieldwork. Fieldwork produces ambiguous results, such as metal detector signals, rusted fragments, or broken glass. Each uncertain discovery strengthens the belief that the treasure is close. The pursuit gradually shifts from speculation to personal mission. Neuroscience explains that the brain releases dopamine not only when receiving a reward, but also when anticipating one. Uncertainty increases anticipation. The longer the treasure remains unfound, the stronger the cycle becomes. Some hunters report dreaming about symbols from the maps. Others describe anxiety during storms, fearing erosion might expose hidden caches before they can reach them. The search begins to control emotional rhythm. There are serious risks as well. The Ozark landscape is dangerous. Limestone cliffs hide unstable ground. Sinkholes appear without warning. Dense underbrush conceals wildlife. Weather conditions can change rapidly, especially during spring floods. Legal risks add another layer. Much of the rumored land is privately owned or protected by federal and state laws. Unauthorized excavation can lead to fines or criminal charges. Removing artifacts without permits may violate heritage protection laws. Despite these dangers, interest rises during economic downturns. Online forums dedicated to lost Confederate gold show noticeable increases in activity during financial instability. Replica maps circulate widely. Auction prices for alleged 1865 documents increase sharply. The hope of sudden wealth becomes emotionally powerful again. Yet history shows a pattern of very few confirmed recoveries and many personal losses. Whether the gold is real remains uncertain, but the obsession clearly is. Even without confirmed bullion, the legend continues to influence the region. Certain parcels of land carry inflated value because of rumored treasure connections. Local folklore becomes part of real estate narratives. Sellers hint at historic potential. Buyers factor speculation into pricing. Meanwhile, authentic 19th century maps have entered a specialized collector market where verified provenance determines high value. Even maps loosely connected to Confederate treasure stories can command significant sums. Illegal artifact trade complicates matters further. Unauthorized excavations sometimes uncover unrelated Civil War relics that enter private collections without documentation. The legend of lost gold indirectly encourages archaeological damage. More broadly, the persistence of the hidden treasury narrative reflects unresolved tensions in American historical memory. The Confederacy's collapse was sudden and chaotic. A missing treasury symbolizes unfinished closure, a sense of something unresolved. When economic stress intersects with historical myth, gold becomes more than metal. It represents restoration, redemption, reversal, or escape, depending on the seeker's mindset. The maps endure not just as geographic tools, but as psychological artifacts embedded in cultural identity. Today, technology has advanced far beyond anything imaginable in 1865. LiDAR scans penetrate forest canopy. Ground-penetrating radar identifies subsurface irregularities. Satellite imaging tracks subtle terrain changes. Yet no confirmed Confederate megatreasury has emerged from the Ozarks. One explanation is that it was never buried there. Another possibility is that the funds were divided into smaller caches and recovered quietly over time. Perhaps the gold lies deeper within inaccessible cave systems. Or perhaps the mystery survives because it remains unresolved. A discovered treasure would close the story. An undiscovered one keeps it alive. The hunt becomes part of regional heritage. The legend fuels curiosity and economy. The maps transform into ritual objects of inquiry. At Western Taileys Official, we explore the frontier not only as geography, but as psychology. The lost Confederate gold represents ambition, desperation, belief, and the human drive to chase what history leaves unsettled. If tomorrow a verified excavation uncovered the entire missing treasury, documented beyond doubt, would the story truly end? Or would another map surface, another cipher appear, another ridge claim a secret? Sometimes the weight of what remains unfound feels heavier than the gold itself. If you value deep investigative frontier history, subscribe to Western Taileys Official and join us as we uncover the hidden layers of America's past, where myth and memory still shape the present. The hunt continues.